the cutest thing happened to me this morning. So I'm just driving home. I went to the gym this morning and I was going to pull my visor down because I felt like I had this little pimple coming in down right here, like near my chin. And I was like, oh my God, I need to see what's going on. So I like reached up to pull my visor down, and there was this man on the sidewalk, and he was walking his two little dogs, and I think he thought that I was waving at him when I was going to reach up to pull my visor down, and he waved at me, and it was such a cute little moment because I was like going fast, where like I was like couldn't wave at him, like couldn't be cognizant of it until like after, I had passed. But I was like, oh, that's so cute, that's so sweet that there's so many there's so many good people out in the world, and this is like, okay, so you should start smiling at strangers. Start smiling at strangers, but also like waving at strangers too. I did a smile experiment the last time I went to the airport a few weeks ago, where I was just with my family, and they were kind of stressed about things, and I was just kind of like looking around and people watching, and I was doing an experiment where I would be looking at someone who's like looking down and extremely focused, and see if they could like feel me looking at them and look up. And so each time somebody did look up and I was just smiling at them, they smiled back. So it's so contagious, like these little small moments of like smiling at a stranger or like waving to someone, that made my whole morning this morning. And I was like, I just wished good things on his dogs and his family. And, I just thought it was so beautiful because I wasn't intentionally trying to wave at him. Um, but he thought that I was. So I just thought it was so cute. But anyway, again, like I said, this is your invitation to start smiling and waving at strangers. We should be doing that more, because it's like you have nothing to lose, especially around strangers. It's like you get to like, let's say like I'm really introverted. Like let's say you're really introverted and maybe you have trouble like engaging with people. It's like when I love going up to a stranger. I worked in the service industry. I worked in a restaurant for a really long time. And becoming extroverted was like, it was a skill that I was practicing because I am naturally like, I just want to stay tucked away inside my little cave. I want to read my little books and not be bothered. But when I became a server and I had to start going up to tables and engaging with people, I was like, I need to learn how to be good with strangers because this is how I'm going to make tips. This is how I'm going to make my money. So, I would go through my head like, what are ways that I can start engaging with people that would, make them feel more comfortable. And smiling is like the biggest thing. Smiling like is the first thing that you give somebody is a smile. And I remembered I was in this speech class in my college, and one of my friends, he did a speech on how contagious smiling is, and like people can't help but smile back when they see someone like laughing or smiling. And so like, when you're going up to a table in a restaurant, like let's say you're serving, like if I go up and the first thing I'm doing is like mean mugging and all closed off, like people feel that. They feel you before they see you, whether. And then when your shoulders are back, and whenever I was more confident, open, smiling, your tips are just better. And you could start to observe this too, like observe it with different servers if you go out to eat at restaurants and stuff like that. Observe like their presence, and then like I said, I don't know, that was just it was such a sweet little moment. And I just wanted to share that, but I learned a lot working in the service industry just about these like little small things. And they always say the devil is in the details of anything that you're doing. So just like I always think too, like that people, like, again, they can feel you before they see you. Like people can, we are so intelligent. I think we don't even know, like, that we have just barely scratched the surface with understanding our true intelligence, like our true nature. Like these cells capable of doing so much work and healing. And, our five senses, like, they're so limited, And I think that we really pick up on people's energy, and their presence and their hormone, their biochemical cascade, before we even see them and observe them with our eyes. Like, our sense of feeling is so strong, and that's essentially what the cells are doing, like, in our body. They are observing, like, the bloodstream, and they're always observing, like, is the sugar high or is it low, because they don't have eyes to see, but they use the capacity to feel and to understand what types of genes we need to express. Like, is it very stressed in the environment, in the bloodstream? Is there a lot of cortisol in the environment? That means that we need to buckle down and take care of, any type of threat. We go into our stress response, fight or flight. But if things are good, if there's a lot of testosterone in the environment, because those things, cortisol, testosterone, work yin and yang, they're like, okay, we're good. We're going to focus on creation and building and repairing, restoring, because we have the energy to do so. We don't have the energy to do so. We don't have extracurricular energy when we're in fight or flight. So it's so beautiful. And, like, when you show up in other people's presence, like, that man, I guess he really could have just, like, stuck his middle finger up at me, but he waved at me, and it's like, we always have that opportunity to either present ourselves as, like, a safe, open space for other people, or we can show up with a very threatening presence. And so I think that's beautiful, and something I try to focus on a lot is, like, providing a safe space for people, and allowing people to also, like, be themselves, because it's something I struggle with a lot, is, like, we're always judging the environment, we're always picking up on we pick up on everything. Like, we're so intelligent, and that's part of our discernment, is, like, our judgment, and trying to, what I'm saying is, like, profile someone's psychological, you try and detect, is this person a safe person or not. And then for me, I'm also into health, so, like, I typically will metabolically profile people as well. You're looking for blood flow, I'm looking for muscle mass or weight gain in the middle, just because once I started doing this, like, when I was training people, metabolically profiling people is so that I can help them, is so that I can understand and kind of, like, explain to them how, when we're in the stress response, we shunt all this blood flow and we gain this weight in the midsection. We typically lose muscle mass on the extremities, the extremities, like the arms and the legs. So what we do when we're trying to gain muscle, lose weight, get more energy in the body, is we want to focus on putting muscle mass on the extremities. And so that way we can get that blood flow, out to the surfaces, out to the ends. And in that way, when we practice, it's a two-way street. When we practice putting all this blood flow and this muscle out on the extremities, the body is getting the signal that it is safe to be in the rest and digest. It's safe to be building. And when we're constantly stressed, our breathing rate is shallow, and we are eating all these things that are, tons of sugar and, whatever chemicals, we just shunt that blood flow to the center. So, I kind of got pretty far off from where we first started, was that you should start waving at strangers, but I don't think it's really far off. I think everything is always connected. So, like, let's say, like, there's someone in your family, or even that stranger, like that man. I could have been having a terrible day. I was actually having a wonderful morning. Today is a beautiful day. But I could have been having a terrible day. And he waved to me, and it made my day. But let's say, like, I'm a really anxious person. That small interaction, it made me smile. It put me into a rest and digest, and it's like, we can do that. Like, imagine if, like, everybody started doing these little small things, like, how much it would ripple out into the world. There's that beautiful movie that I had a 7th grade teacher. She was one of my favorite teachers ever. She put on this movie for us. It was called The Butterfly Effect, I think. And it was showing us how, like, one small interaction would just ripple out. It ripples out to 3 people, and that ripples out to 6 people, and then to 9 people. And it's like a pebble in the ocean, or like a pebble in a puddle. You just watch how, one person's biochemistry can just change the world. It's one person's mitochondria just continues to invest and ripple. It's like compound interest, you know, if you are into investing. It's so beautiful, you know. It's so lovely. Anyway, so that's all I wanted to say. I hope that you start waving at strangers more, smiling at strangers more, because you never know how it can change someone's day, and really change someone's biochemistry. It's so beautiful. We are all biochemists, born to be. And I just want to remind you before we go is that we don't see ourselves accurately at all. We go into the mirror, we see a body, we call ourselves by name, but our bodies are made of trillions and trillions of cells. You know, every you know, just with the surface, the tip of your finger is so many cells like we can't see. In the gut bacteria, there are other trillions of cells, and these cells, they work so hard to keep us energized and working. Our mitochondria, they work so hard. They're always trying to make more of themselves and produce and heal. So just don't forget, every time you're eating to fuel these little tiny factories and all these little processes that are happening, and you're fueling the dream state at night. We are training and eating for deeper and deeper rest each night. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for you, but as always, I do wish you the best of luck.